Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ad Age's custom webcast sponsored by Fluency. The topic of today's webcast is Build Your Digital Workforce, Scale Your Multi-Channel Strategy with AI. I'm Natalie Zafat with the Ad Age team, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few quick items to go over before we begin. We'll be hearing from today's presenters shortly, and then we'll open up the floor to your questions. To participate in the Q&A portion of the webcast, all you have to do is type your question into the Ask a Question text area. Then click the Send button. You can submit the questions at any time during the webcast, but we'll address as many as time permits after the presenters' prepared remarks. Now let's get started. I would like to introduce our presenters for today: Eric Mayhew, co-founder, president, and CPO of Fluency, and Heather Chevali, vice president of growth at Fluency. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Heather, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Looking forward to talking about all things AI, agentic AI, digital workforce, and automation. So today, what we're going to cover, really three main bullet points. One is when we think about AI and automation, specifically to ad operations, how can that become a force multiplier for your businesses? Secondly, we're going to talk about work streams where we feel that AI can be most effective in an ad operations setting. And then how to manage your digital workforce with an operating system, right? With a platform. So those are three bullets today. Please continue to submit questions as we go along. We're looking forward to answering those at the end. But before we jump all the way into that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and Eric and our background here at Fluency. So while Fluency is only a 7-year-old company, we have been in the digital advertising operating space for about 20 years. And this operating system that we have at Fluency has been in the making for that long. We are built on a base of robotic process automation. And throughout the years, as we've been really tinkering and dialing in our automation for AdOps, we've been folding in AI as that's become available, and really have been on the leading edge of that, specifically Eric Mayhew, who's here to talk about that today. At this point, we do have billions under management running through our AI-assisted operating system, and we're looking forward to talking to you about that. So at a high level, what we're able to do is really support in 5 main areas of AdOps execution. So the actual execution and ongoing management of advertising, the content and creative management, reporting and analytics, process automation, so your playbooks, your SOPs, and then operational integration across the rest of your tech stack. The channels we currently support: Google, anything Microsoft, Meta, Pinterest, YouTube, Basis, Amazon sponsored display, and we have quite a roadmap of channel expansion coming in 2025 and in 2026. So before we get into the session, I'd love Eric to give just a little bit of background about how we got here, how this journey of automation has brought us to this point where we're thinking about automation and agentic AI and digital workforces. So Eric, let me kick it over to you to tell a little story for them.
Thanks, Heather. Well, you kind of touched on it quite a bit in that little intro, but the real information about Fluency is it did start before Fluency. We actually did this job. We worked together, many of us worked together at a previous company, building an extremely large and highly scalable advertising department in a tech company. So we took it from a tech-first approach, thinking about how we would start to scale this business out in a way that wasn't going to be a heavy labor and operations cost functionality to try to get to that super long tail part of it, of what an agency provides their clients. So we did it for about 10 years and grew that business quite a bit. So it became one of the largest small to medium business agencies in the entire country. But that journey really required us to think exhaustively about what systems we could automate. So this is pre-2022 when AI had really come out. So we were focused a lot on automation and data integration systems, and that concept of the playbooks that you had just kind of touched on a little bit, right, in that process automation side. So we looked heavily at how we could grow a business and basically make it almost an agency run itself as much as possible. Now, there are parts that you can't, or at least couldn't for quite a long time, automate out, but we wanted to make sure that those were fewer and farther between, making your staff, or our staff at the time, superheroes and effective in anything that they needed to do. So Fluency is that next generation where we said, okay, we've got to reset here. We've got new technology, we've got new opportunities, and we've got a new landscape from all that learnings that we've had. We've got a new landscape in front of us. So how can we make technology that will bring this to other agencies and other brands so that the cost of executing advertising doesn't diminish its returns? We're all focused on return on ad spend, and the more energy and effort we have to expend to get that return on ad spend, the less and less attractive it can be. So that's kind of been the history, and it's been a lot of fun to do. And I think you nailed the 5 things that we really focus on a lot. That's where most of the time is spent. So we are here to help our partners and specifically help the digital strategist be successful.
Awesome. So when we were thinking about digital workforces, and as Eric's been developing our agentic AI, we wanted to kind of know what was going on in the landscape with our partners and independent agencies out there running advertising operations today. So it was really interesting, right? A couple things that we learned that we pulled out of that study. One was 80% of ad strategists manage 3 or more platforms. Anyone out there who is in the seat right now doing the job understands that all of these channels move at a lightning pace, right? They're changing all the time. And to have to keep up with 3 of those platforms and all the changes and updates that go on, it makes the job very tedious. The other thing that we were surprised by was it takes 76 hours on average to launch a new account. That's almost 2 working weeks and a lot of hands-on keyboard time. The last thing that we found surprising was that 25% of agencies need more than a week to launch a new campaign. And what surprised us about that was that in order to be efficient, in order to meet the expectations of customers, if you think about a week to 2 weeks, that is a really long time, and really makes the story of a digital workforce even more compelling as we dig into it here today. So if you all are out there and saying, how could a digital workforce help us? Well, it's definitely going to empower your teams, but you have to take a step back first and understand how that's going to work with the technology you have in place. Eric, I would love for you to talk a little bit about not just the AI component, but how automation supports that and helps ad operations scale.
Awesome intro. And as we go into this, I'd like to kind of take it in the same sequence that the company unfolded in. Now, obviously, AI is a big part of what we're going to talk about today, but it really started with automation. And when we as leaders or people that are working alongside your digital strategist, there's a phrase that I've listened to for my entire career. It's actually been what guides me and what guides a lot of our team and our company. And that phrase that you'll hear, and if you're listening within your own departments, you may hear it, is, why can't it just, or why can't we just? Like, that phrase is a really important phrase to anchor in on. Your strategist will say it. They'll say it. There's 2 different parts there. Why can't it just is often about your systems and your tech, and why can't we just is often about your processes and workflows. So take those 2 things together. They're not. Some of them are solvable by tech. Some of them aren't. And for many, many years, we'd key in and we'd say, when we hear a phrase like that, that means somebody's frustrated with the task. It's taking longer. It's a discouraging thing that seems like low value to the person that's about to do it. I'll give you an example of why can't it just? We often have a website. The website will have someone's products and a statement like, why can't it just use the products from the website to help inform my advertising? Great problem to have. We have tools and systems that can do that, and that's a great use case for automation. Automation will allow you to go pull that centralized data, bring it forward, bring it into your advertising strategy, and do it at scale. So that's an amazing spot for us to anchor in on and just listen to those statements. Some of them, for many, many years, haven't been solvable by straight software automation. We can always make processes that do predictable and repeatable things, but some of them are decision trees. Why can't it choose the right bidding strategy for me in these very complex scenarios? Just as an example, that one's a pretty good question. And that requires some pretty sophisticated understanding of intention, goal, data input, relevancy to the current timely data. And what we've found since the unveiling of OpenAI and all the other LLMs that have come out since 2022 is it's a fantastic outlet for solving that side of the equation in the why can't it just problem statement. So automation is excellent for very predictable and deterministic outcomes. It's great for automating your playbooks. It's great when you have good structured data that goes into it, relatively clean data that you can run processes on. And AI can help you with the other side of it. When you have unclean data, things to interpret, more current relevant metrics that come in that have to align with goals and intention that are complex for any single system to just model. Now, you can get there over time, but that's where AI really can bootstrap and accelerate that. We also see AI having a strong point of the creativity. Now, we are all creative people. In this space, actually, when I say that, I'm a more technical advertiser. I'm more on the digital side, but part of the role is to be creative in our ad content, in our messaging. So creative variety, AI is excellent at that. But it also can help us with some of our tasking as well. There are some hemispheres that we've had with the workforce. So if you look at your traditional ad strategist today, compare it to before we were digital, the role has really changed. It's a pretty technical role now. So this creative advertiser world still exists, and we're still expected to be creative and come up with great messaging and great tactics to go engage our consumer base. But at the same time, we have the need to understand the complexity and sophistication of these digital platforms. Google must have, I did try to count this up one time. It's very difficult to count, but about 1,100 settings just to go from top to bottom from an account creation down to a single keyword. So that tree has about 1,100 settings. Knowing which of those settings matter, what the right values are, when to use them and when not to, like that's a very technical part of the job, oftentimes in conflict with your creative side. So the other side is we have customer engagement. We have to speak with our clients, and that side of that's a customer service type role, and that can be yet a different personality. So if we break it down into what we can do today with some agents, and I'm going to kind of bridge the gap between two phrases that we've used kind of interchangeably, agentic AI and the digital workforce. Digital workforce is a concept that we've been working on here in Fluency that effectively takes what agentic AI that can run autonomously and interpret your data and work as an agent for you, almost like a coworker, build that together into these roles and responsibilities that you can then virtually hire as your digital workforce to do the job for you. So if we break that down, your ad strategist has those two roles, and your account manager has the role of the relationship building. And AI has been great at giving us a persona and a style where we can say, just with this little bit of prompt engineering, here's your creative copywriter, here's the tonality that I want in my content, and here's the discipline and rigor that I want in my analyst. Two different types of people, but very easy to do with an AI solution. So if we take the roles and responsibilities that your copywriters do, the creative engagement, the generation of specials and specials messaging, some of the way that you want to tell a story, maybe even, that might be more on the reporting side, but the way you want to tell a story, that's all in your copywriter side. And then your analyst is more of that technical side. How do I execute this? What's my appropriate bidding strategies? How do I want to pull this in and make the right settings inside my tools? So we've got this set up as a workforce where you can actually define roles. These are the functions that they do, and then hire them to work for you. And those digital workforce agents can run autonomously. I know we're all kind of apprehensive about what does it mean when they can push the buttons and pull the levers within our advertising strategies, or they can run in a recommendation mode. And I think that's a really important piece, is to let us be a little risk adverse while getting the benefit of that workforce. So assign your copywriter the ability to write additional variations on content themes. It'll be great. Exchange the writing for the reviewing side of that responsibility, and then you're still in charge. You still have that, but you don't have to spend your day trying to come up with the 100th version of see our website for more details, right? So it's a great spot for us to anchor in on there. And on the analyst side, sorry, go ahead, Heather.
No, I finish your thought, and then I had a question for you.
Sure. So on the analyst side, that's about pulling the levers and making sure that we bring in some of the best practices that we have in our playbooks, how we encounter new customer goals, data that comes in, analyzing that data, and then working off that. And on the reporting side, I think there's a lot of really great opportunity here. Anybody that's done the role, 50% of the time feels like it's in the pulling levers and optimizing campaigns, and 50% of the time is in justifying that we did a good job and that we're worth having on your account. So that reporting piece can be pretty time consuming as well. And we think that there's a great savings in this ecosystem. You had a question?
That's awesome. Yeah. So if I'm in the audience today, what I'm hearing is that automation and AI are like Jordan and Pippen. Alone, they're great. Together, they're even better. So someone who's sitting out there right now who's going, well, I don't have automation or AI. Here's a question that they might be thinking that I thought is, well, what comes first? Does automation come first, or does AI come first, or do they come together? The thought of trying to introduce both at the same time might seem overwhelming. So what are kind of your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it really comes down to whatever your goal is first. If you're looking to save labor and get it to the point where you can scale your operations, then automation is an incredible first adventure. It's low risk. It's relatively easy to implement. Data coming in is important. If you're looking for novelty and increased performance, and the labor costs are not of concern, AI can be a really big help there too. I mean, it will save you in timing of that more detailed and complex ask, but it's going to be more of a creative and a consultative coworker that's going to work alongside you, but maybe not pulling those levers. Even if you want to get to agentic AI, where this is something that's going to run autonomously and make those adjustments for you, you're still going to want an automation orchestration layer that's going to help you with that. Set up the right data for your agent to work off of, set up the right auditing and compliance rules and regulations to make sure that the results are what you would want them to be, and then have something that can apply them afterwards if you want to get into both of those sides of the equation. So that orchestration layer tends to be an automation side governing AI. And then there's like a complete role reversal. Sometimes AI invoking or configuring your automation is also helpful. But if you were to ask what comes first, if scalability of your operations is what's coming first and you're overloaded, let's start with automation. But I don't think that they're something that you're going to pull apart as we go forward. They're going to be co-joined, and they're going to be something that you're going to see as kind of a bundled package.
Awesome. I thought I might be asking you a chicken and the egg question. So,
well, I think you're going to be one and the same. So, like, if there's some sort of weird chicken egg hybrid, that's kind of where we're going to end up.
All right, that's awesome. So we just kind of covered at a high level what a digital workforce could look like, how it works well with automation, how those things play really great together, and obviously alone too. So we're currently doing this at Fluency. We do have customers leveraging digital workforce. So we wanted to bring a real example here of one of our customers that is using Agentic AI for reporting and analysis. They're doing this across hundreds of accounts. Eric was obviously a big part of implementing this, and just love for you to tell the audience a little bit about how this is working in practice.
Awesome. I'll tell you a little bit of the backstory about how we got to this even as one of the things to solve. So obviously, if you look at AI usage, a lot of it ends up being chat bots, chat responders, data interpretation. So those are the low-hanging fruit. And we definitely have a piece of that, creative line generation. But the problem that came to us was, I understand a lot of the button clicking with automation is gone, but it's still very expensive for us to every month try to contact our client. They're hard to get a meeting on the books with. It takes us an hour maybe to coordinate and get to a common schedule time. It takes us time to prepare a deck to meet with them. It takes time for us to present that deck, and that's all consuming into my my account to analyst workload ratios. Like that's very difficult to get to the ratios that we'd like to get to because it takes a long time just to report out. So we kind of noodled on this for a little while, and it's going to sound weird, and I don't want to sound like a goofball that sits out in the middle of a field, but I was out on my tractor mowing, and it kind of clicked with me. This might be a way that we could really help here. I got off my tractor, lawn was half mowed, and came back in, and we started to work on this problem. And what it was templatizing the MPRs, so your PowerPoint decks, bringing that rich data so we can automatically generate that content. Now that's the first part of many parts of the problem, getting the deck built. These are rich and immersive decks. I think you can see kind of the styling that's in that little sample that's there. They get more and more immersive as you go. They have animations, they have flow, they have a narrative and builds. So it's pretty neat to see that you can design those once and then roll those up to your entire portfolio. They run these across about 500 accounts monthly, is approximately. So they're not building 500 decks anymore. They're not going in and taking screenshots of Google Ads pages. They're automatically built. That's a cool piece of tech in its own right. But when you have that, let's talk about the other parts of that problem that they were trying to solve. It takes time to schedule this. It takes time to present it. So those are the front end and the back end side of that problem. So we thought, could we deliver this automatically for them? Could we actually present this to the end user? So we built a tool that will distribute this out across their client base automatically. It will present to them in you can see the little play button, almost like a video. So we've taken it out of PowerPoint as maybe a seed, or a slideshow as a seed, but ultimately turning it into a video asset that you can play through and have it walk through this narrative. Now you get to that point. The next problem is, I really don't want to leave it to my client to interpret data. Oftentimes I will show them the positives and make sure I can emphasize and highlight the positives. This is where AI became extremely important. AI and some static analysis of things to write these compelling stories that allow us to put something together that's extremely well tailored to talk about the value that you're bringing. Now that doesn't mean hand wave over the negatives. I think it means bring balance to it and make sure that where the effort that you've put in shows up, make sure it's showcased. So analyzing the changes that you've made over the last month, analyzing the performance impact that it's had, offering suggestions on where we might go next. And at the same time, I think we've all had static reports that we go through. They're kind of dull, and if they don't have some sort of audio, if they're not immersive, that's also challenging. So we took that narrative and story that we're telling and brought that in to be text to speech and text to AI avatar. So you actually can have someone that walks you through this experience, this deck, and talks you through the entire thing. It's an extremely cool experience when you do this, because now you're telling a story. You haven't lost your ability to shape the conversation, and you haven't lost your ability to do things like upsells later. If there are opportunities there, you've got your upsell opportunity. It's right built into the deck with that avatar talking through them. One of the things that you'll notice is, and this is kind of a cool piece of tech as well. So AI helping with the analysis, AI helping with the video asset production and audio production, but also there's an AI chat box there that is context aware of every piece of data that's in the slide and how they interact with each other. So now your end user can be told this narrative, pause that narrative, and ask their own bespoke question, and the responses will be right in there. So this is taking us down to 90% time savings in that entire workflow, without sacrificing any of the experience, which it's actually kind of cool, because we all love the modern tech, and it's kind of a cool experience that has improved the engagement for our clients with their clients.
I remember the first time I saw this, when you showed us the beta, and I was just completely blown away with it. And it's progressed even further since then. I encourage anyone who's like, what? To what Eric just said, to call us, and we'll show it to you, because it is super, super cool. And this was one of our first agentic AI real endeavors, and it's been unfolding since then. And this is if you spend a lot of time reporting, give us a call, because this tool could really be helpful, and it's so awesome.
One of the things I really want to say on that before we go on, Heather, is we talked a lot about the fluency part of that, but our partner in that, our client that worked alongside us with this was absolutely imperative to the success of this. They're fantastic. They're innovators, and it was neat to see how we could help them realize their innovation goals. And so I just want to say, like, I didn't get permission to use their name yet, but thank you. You know who you are. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. We do need partners who are leaning tech forward to help us make these things come to life. So reporting's great. I think we don't talk to a single prospect or customer who doesn't have challenges around the time needed for reporting. But give us some other use cases for agentic AI and a digital workforce that maybe you're working on or that you see kind of coming. How can folks out there think about how else an AI assistant could help them in their day-to-day?
What really pulls us forward in the agentic world is a little different than what we've talked about so far. If you've ever used, we've all used it now. We've all used AI at this point. You can ask questions, and generally available knowledge is summarized and returned back to you, and that's pretty cool in how that works. It's actually amazing. It's excellent in what it does. But the domain that we work within as advertisers is very context aware. It really matters the ad group that we're looking at, or the intention and goal that the customer has, or their performance metrics. And that's not generally available data that any agent would have automatically. So there's this part of this component, and it's in the news a lot right now. If you look it up, it's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. And Retrieval Augmented Generation allows you to interface back and forth between software systems, like what we have provided here, and AI agents. So you can ask questions. It can ask to you to retrieve data for it. Sometimes it plugs directly into databases. We have a layer in between. We have a software layer in between, so we have some governance over the data. But it will ask you to retrieve data for it. We'll fetch that data, return it back, and re-ask the question to continue on with those additional pieces of iteration and give that agent the context that it needs to answer the questions that we really have about our own data. So as you'll see here, creative execution is a piece. Optimization is going to fall squarely in that category. It's impossible to optimize without awareness of the campaign structure, the performance that it has. So we need to retrieve that data and give the AI agents context for that. We currently use a lot of the models inside the Amazon Bedrock space. We've toyed with models outside of that, but we've really anchored in there, and using the right agent to help with those optimizations is key. So when we get that data back, that recommendation back, there's another part to that. How would we apply that? And when we get to agentic, that we have to think one layer past just pulling data and asking questions of it, but what are the actions we're going to take from that data? So if we provide another piece of very cool AI tech that's come out in the last, I hate to say last year, I've started using it in the last year. It's called function calling or tool use. I know it predates that, but function calling and tool use is a technology that you wouldn't see in your normal chat GPT interface, but it's a software to software interface where you can inform the LLMs of software that you have on your side, ask questions of it, and it will give you advice on how to invoke that software. So say you've got a function or a method that you want to call. Here are the parameters that it takes. Help me choose the right function to call and the right parameters to pass into it so that I can take action, and give me your rationale about why. So with function calling, we can go down a path of asking pretty complicated questions, having an interface with our software, and then taking action on those things. The first use case that we had that we thought was really cool, and there are just so many opportunities in front of us. In 2018, one of the common things that we wanted to solve for were specials. Specials for the ad strat at the time, they had to remember to say, hey, I got to go fetch my specials. On the first, I need to displace my current running ads. I've got to write myself a ticket and a reminder to take them down on the 30th and put my evergreen ads back in. We thought we had fixed a lot of that by providing this tool called Broadcast, where you put the specials in and the period of performance, and it would do that displacement and takedown for you. Awesome. That's a great time saving. You don't have to write a ticket. You don't have to come back to it. You never forget. It knows. But you still have the work of going to collect those specials. You either got to get the data from a source, or you've got to go poll your customer, or you've got to maybe scan the website, whatever those elements are that you pull that data, you get those specials from, just to go configure broadcast. And when you start to manage large portfolios, you realize that even configuring broadcast can take some time. So we took one of the agents and we said, hey, Fluency is always monitoring web pages anyways, because we want to make sure that no landing pages are dead. What if we took that and we provided that to the AI and said, which of these pages would you like more detailed analysis on to help understand what specials might be running on an account? So we do that. Now we fetch the page content, pass it back in. Like all great LLMs, document summarization, they're great at it. So summarize that HTML document that I just got and extract the specials for me. So we've gone back and forth between asking a question, fetching data out of the platform, passing it back in, asking yet another question, summarize this content. We get that summarized content back, and now we can summarize multiple pages together and say, hey, deduplicate this, find me the unique specials, find me the period of performance that these specials run on. Awesome. Get a consolidated view of those specials. And then finally, we can provide that function calling scenario. Here's how you would configure broadcast for a special. Take what you know about these specials, this summarized, distilled set of content. Help me configure my broadcast tool automatically. Now, we didn't go we didn't take such a big risk where it immediately configures broadcast and applies it, but obviously you could do that. We have it right now where it's presented to the user. Here's the configuration that AI recommends. Here's the pages that we pulled all this information from. Here are the specials that are running. You can see how it all works. So it's auto-configured and you can just hit apply. So all of that work that was manual data entry at one point is now back and forth with AI and software so seamlessly that it becomes a really easy job. Our hope is that the success rate and the amount of manual edits are so low, people are like, yeah, this works at 100% of the time. I am ready to let it run truly agentically, let it run autonomously and just do this for me. And that's part of when we hire that digital workforce, that's what we're going to ask them to do. We're going to ask them first whether you will make recommendations back to me, and I will audit your work, not unlike a junior employee. And then next, we're going to let you run autonomously because we've seen you demonstrate success.
And Eric, when it comes to reaching out to the website and doing something like specials, could anything apply there? Could that be inventory? Could that be content off the site?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic, it really has no boundary that I can think of right now that it couldn't help with, because it really interprets content a lot like people interpret content. So yes, pulling products is great for it. We have done a lot of work with automatic data cleansing. So making sure that misspellings are caught and repaired in data feeds so that we don't advertise things automatically from data feeds that are misspelled. Building out large volumes of descriptions on gigantic product sets. But we have about 30 known use cases that we can see that would make a ton of sense, analyzing a search query report and ensuring that we have the right decision tree of whether we should lean into, make positive keywords, or steer away from, make negative keywords for targeting. We've done some amazing things that I hope the team's is okay with me talking about this early. We've done some things where AI generated creative assets. So HTML5 display ads built from descriptions that you can then work with. And it's very, very new. And I'm sorry, team, for talking about it publicly, but it's super cool. It does work. And there's 30 of these things that we can really lean into, and they will grow and they will make this even more and more impressive and valuable as we go forward.
That's awesome. And we're always looking for more use cases that we haven't thought of. So if you're thinking of one, drop the question in the chat, please. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Hopefully there's people out there going, yes, we want to build this digital workforce. This is making sense. What should they be thinking about? Where do they start, right? It can seem very overwhelming. We kind of touched on this earlier with what comes first, AI or automation. What are the three things they should kind of be thinking about as they're entering this potential journey of evaluation?
Well, I think that first one is extremely important. We've kind of touched on it a lot of times. Most of what Fluency focuses on is on time savings. How do we return time back to your team so that they can be more strategic and more creative with their time and less in that button clicking? It's funny when you see when you see some of the things about what AI has taken, it's taken away, it can write poetry, but it can't do the dishes. Like, we really want it to help you do the dishes and give you time to write poetry, right? So it's kind of a funny little like quip about AI. But we don't do this just as a hobby. So what we're trying to do is have a real financial business case, both us and our clients both. So if you understand where your teams spend the most time, where are those time sinks? And I bet you'll be surprised, if you actually haven't done the job, how much time there is in simply loading up Google Ads web pages, Facebook Business Manager pages, and just navigating through things. There's a lot of copy and paste in there. There's a lot of clicks that could be eliminated. And you'll see that we could really get away from a lot of that execution side. I know most times when people start their day, they have to go find the needle in the haystack problems. They have to go find the opportunities that are in front of them that the data from yesterday let them know about. So analysis can be another spot where we're kind of not rudderless, but we end up with a good process. But we are looking at a lot of data all the time to try to make good judgments on what to do with our time. And then finally, we talked about that reporting piece. That reporting piece is pretty accurate. It takes a lot of time to generate reports, to convey concepts, to tell your narrative and your story, and convey that over to your clients. So that, just take a look at and understand where your teams spend their time, because that's where you'd want to make sure that you're going to focus your automation and AI efforts in something that helps you in one of those places. Then you'd want to take a look at what risk tolerance you have. So when you do automation is relatively low risk. It's got data, so you've got so that number 3 kind of comes into play in this place, into this area. If you've got good structured data and you have good rule systems, your automation is relatively safe. Think about automation a lot like your digital playbooks that you have within your walls today. Whenever I see an HVAC account in a rural area, this is my approach. This is kind of what I would cover. At a spend level of a medium spender, I know how I would engage their audience. I know what campaigns I would prioritize. Those playbooks are the things that you really want to automate your knowledge. So we want to make sure that you have the ability to not rely just on the heroics of 1 or 2 great strategists, but take those 1 or 2 great strategists and industrialize what they know and what they do. Make that your core value prop. Be able to tell your story, and tell your story whether they, unfortunately, sometimes they leave, and you don't want to lose that core value when they do. And then lastly, take a look at the data that you have. Does it support the narratives and the playbooks that you just talked about? How hard is it to collect the data? Do your ad strategists have to go to multiple different systems and interpret long text-based things of instructions that are complex, that require a person to comprehend? Again, a relatively good use case for AI. Or is the data all in your CRM systems and it's easy to go pull that data? It's well structured, it's clean, and it's very heavily automatable. A great automation story. Now, as we dovetail those 2 things together all the time, like I say, they're going to become tighter and tighter coupled as we go forward. You won't have to make that choice, but right now, if you have good, clean data, you can go and anchor heavily into automation directly. If you have data that requires a lot of interpretation and hygiene, you probably are going to need to bring in the AI component right at that point. So think through the data that you have, and if it supports your playbooks, and if you can focus on the areas that your teams are spending the most time in the non-productive work, it's a great stepping stone.
And would you also potentially say, when we're thinking about data, and I feel like we find this a lot, when prospects or potential clients come to us and they talk about data, they're thinking about it in a narrower lens than they potentially could be. So would you also encourage, as they're going down this journey, to think about the types of data that they have access to that maybe today isn't possible to leverage due to time sensitivity or just resource constraints?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question, because it would be one that I could gloss over, having been in the space for that long. A lot of times I will find that people will make data a synonym for audiences. And that just is one type of data. Effectively, anything that you would use that's structured in any way, that you would define and design your campaign structure and strategy, can be data. One of the things I anchor in on a lot, and we all do, is on CRM data. You have a lens on the business. You might know their year founded, and you might know their slogan and their value props. Like, you might know enough about their business, their products, their product size, and how much revenue goes through them. All those things can really structure how you engage your campaigns to be effective for them. So CRM type data is a really important piece of the data input. Specials as a concept, we just talked about how the agentic AI can help pull that data, but that is still data that's highly valuable. Any specials, coupons, promotions that they're running, time-based offers, the products that they offer, the regions that they're in, and where their sales data, their actual conversion and sales data is coming from. All those pieces inform how you campaign and how you execute. So I would say focus again on what goes into configuring your campaigns and scaling them out. Because when we talk about automation and scalability, it can sound very routine, repetitive, and I hate to use the word cookie cutter, but that's been used in the past, unless you have excellent and rich data that can come in and inform your playbooks. So if you have that excellent data that is unique to each customer, all of those components will feel bespoke and feel unique, even though that they follow a framework, they follow your playbook, just no different than your staff would. You don't have to have the button clicks to go along with that.
Yeah, I'm glad we touched on that, because a lot of the time we are encouraging folks to think bigger. How can we inform the ads based on a forward-looking occupancy rate or the weather in a certain region? And those things are possible with automation and AI. So I encourage you all to think about how could you inform your campaigns better if you had access to real-time data such as that. So we're going to kind of wrap up here. We've got a couple minutes left, and then we'll take some Q&A. So our three takeaways is AI is not going to replace human teams. We are firm believers that AI is going to help the best folks on your team, your core players, focus on improving the advertising rather than managing the advertising, right? We want the AI and the automation to do the low value tasks that must be done when we talk about advertising execution. Second, agentic AI is best equipped for three workflows: reporting, content development, and performance optimization. If you all have ideas outside of that, we'd love to hear them. And then also, to scale the benefits of AI, you do need a connected system, right? You need connected data, you need structured data, you need a way for that to flow out to those end campaigns. So I want to just thank Ad Age for having us today. It's been awesome to be in front of all of you guys. We're going to take some questions now from the team. And certainly, if you don't want to ask a question here, feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Eric, for those really helpful strategies and ways of thinking about AI. We are now ready to open up the floor to your questions. As a reminder, to participate in the Q&A, just type your question into the Ask a Question text area and click send. So I want to start with this question that came in that says, as AI continues to evolve, how do you see it impacting the roles of digital advertisers in the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, obviously, there's so much that's been changing over the last few years. It has a pretty big uncertainty bounds as we look forward. But so what I'll answer that like a little bit different. I'll answer it as if it was my hopes and dreams for where we take AI, and I see the path there. So it could change, but what I see is the digital strategists that I've gotten to work alongside of, and I've gotten to sit with them as a developer. Like, I'm a developer sitting in the AdOps pod. They're very creative and intelligent, hardworking people. It's been awesome to sit alongside them. They're overworked. It's a challenging job for them. And oftentimes they're in that individual contributor role. And I'm sure that they would raise their hand many times and say, I could use a hand. I manage a large portfolio. I could use you to hire some help for me. Elevate me. What I hope we see over the next few years is an opportunity to hire where we don't want to hire more headcount, virtually hire this digital workforce. So if I'm an ad strategist and I've got a portfolio of 300 accounts and it's been hard to manage and it's been challenging to achieve all the goals that my clients have wanted, maybe I can hire a content writer digitally and a ad strategist digitally and assign them to subsets of accounts and say, hey, this is the tonality and the personality that I know the client would resonate with. This is how they think. This is their level of risk aversion and how they want and what their goals are. Give that to the AI agent and let them start to do work for you. So now instead of you having to go in and do all the button clicking, you actually kind of do just what you do with people. Give them their task assignments, give them their performance reviews, give them their feedback cycles so that you can let the AI agent know whether you like what they did or not. And then, run a team, but run it virtually. Run it at low to no cost because it's a digital workforce. And that would be a really exciting spot for me to see, because I would love to see the elevation in responsibility for the digital strategist evolve beyond, I hope they won't want this, but evolve beyond the day-to-day button clicking, because that can be really tedious. And I've seen it. I've seen the frustration with the numbers of pages they have to scan through to go make these updates and settings, and just empower them to have a team that works for them, that they manage, that they have the oversight on. So that's kind of where I see this digital workforce and agentic AI going, running autonomously, helping out the ad strat, and elevating them to managing a team.
Yeah, makes sense. And thank you. As you kind of share your hopes and dreams, I wonder if we can also look at the other side, which are some of the mistakes. We got this question that asks, what are some of those common mistakes that agencies make when they are implementing AI and automation? How can those agencies avoid making them?
It's funny, and I hope nobody in the sphere that I operate in is insulted when I say this. I find that in most conversations, whenever there's a problem, the next statement is, why don't we just put AI on it? So there's a little bit of over expectation on what it is, or at least the path to get it there. It still takes engineering and energy and effort to make an AI agent successful. It isn't a day zero. It will just work and it will just be perfect, especially in a closed ecosystem domain like advertising, where it really matters the data that you present it, the way you ask the questions, and the things that you can do with those results. So over-indexing on the expectation too early can lead to disappointment. The other side of that is ensuring that you understand the risk of hiring someone like a digital agent to go do this work for you. Many of us have compliance concerns, Fair Housing Act requirements, OEM brand compliance, brand safety. All of those types of things are things that we're conscious of, that you have to make sure that you have either expressed extremely well to the agent, or you have auditing systems that sit around that and govern that, so that you can have a lower risk implementation of AI. So just don't be naive about what it takes to actually make them useful. And then on the other side, when you are working on them, understand that you're going to need to put some governance and structure around it so that you are using them safely.
Helpful. Let's navigate for a moment to the systems themselves. So this question came in, which is asking, what steps should I take to ensure my existing systems are properly integrated with AI and automation tools to avoid workflow disruption?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So the question is what we can do to make systems integrate with AI. Connected platforms are obviously a strong play. You've got to get your data to talk to each other, and that can be done in several different ways. If you have a development staff, you can obviously pull that data together and pre-process it and prepare it for AI consumption. You can put together libraries to train that data on, but you really want that just in time, mostly, especially in advertising. You're going to want the just in time, today's performance type information to be relevant and ready for your AI implementation. So I think what you really want to understand is the topography of the data that you have, understand what sources and systems it comes from, and how to connect it back together so it's prepared to be brought to a connected AI experience. Those dissimilar systems, asking AI a question in isolation is probably the wrong thing. If you don't give it enough data to answer properly, it's a compounding error as you go. And there might be versions of it where if you keep the prompt history, you can continue to iterate, but I would say pulling that data together is the most important thing. So look at the data systems that you have, understand the workflows that you want to automate or use agentic AI on, ensure that data supports that, and a person could answer the question from the data that they have, and then proceed from there.
If you're just joining or you would like to ask a question of our presenters, as a reminder to participate in the Q&A, just type your question into the Ask a Question text area, click the send button. A couple more for you here. We got a question from Mark, and this is what it says. He says, I can grasp a lot of ROI for those doing fast moving and quickly changing direct response campaigns. For advertisers, brands and organizations focus more on metrics related to branding, like reach, frequency, GRPs, brand lift, message recall. How do you see agentic AI and some of these use cases applying? And how about when interfacing with programmatic buying platforms?
Awesome. So programmatic stuff, I kind of talked a little bit about this. One of the things that I've always found kind of challenging on the programmatic side for scalability tends to be in that just creative generation. So as we've talked about, one of the things that's emerging right as we speak is AI generated creative solutions. Now, we all talk about A/B testing. A/B testing in its own right is pretty labor intensive sometimes. So there's a lot of places for us to go check those tests, make the evaluation, and move on from there. You can have some automated rules in there, but Agentic AI can help you, one, seed the B side of the A/B testing, and then self-evaluate as it goes. So it can summarize that data back for you and return it back to you. I have found that when given good topography of an entire campaign structure, you can get direct and actionable insights very, very quickly. We all know in the campaign structure, there's a lot of settings, there's a lot of depth and a lot of hierarchy. Someone asked me once what the quality of the responses were from AI were, and this is like early AI days. And I would have said it was about an 8. Like if you had a scale of 0 to 10 on your best strategist back then, a year and a half ago, it was an 8. But where it really would shine was when you had large data volumes, because people would go from a 9 that they could be on a comprehensible data set down to a 5 or a 6 once they got to gigantic data sets, because it's just hard. Once it's past a page of data, it's hard to interpret. So the AI agent doesn't really have that problem. They have a context window, so as long as you're within that context window, it's pretty solid. So I see this as a great first indicator and a kind of a barometer to go find where you should spend your time and focus on more complexity. So if you're not in scale, you're probably in complexity. That's usually our trade-off, is scale and complexity. So that more complexity is something an AI can comprehend very, very well.
I hope that answers your question, Mark. We have a couple more for you. One is from Royce, I believe is how to pronounce your name. Apologies if I got it wrong. Royce is asking, how can agentic AI help in creating content for advertising to AI agents, voice search, etc.?
So content for AI. Interesting question. I haven't put a lot of thought into this. I'll try to answer on the fly. Well, the nice thing about AI is with this, along with the system prompt and the user prompt, you can generally give it its scope of anything that you need it to do. So if you can set this up with a system prompt that informs it that its audience is another AI, like voice, voice agents, like you can get that set up so that it's going to try to optimize for that. Now, I don't know how successful it'd be. So it's a great question. It would be a fun one to go tinker with and try to play around with. But I think it would be some marriage of the way you structure your prompting, the focus of what you're trying to pull into it, and the use of the system prompt well.
Okay, and appreciate you answering on the fly. We have a lot of questions that came in, and I think this is the final one that we haven't gotten to yet, which is from Tim. And he's also asking about agentic AI. He's saying, does it also include traditional media and not just digital?
I see no limitation. Even traditional media is becoming digitally purchased. So at some level, I think yes, it can cover that. Now I am definitely focused on the digital space right now, but linear TV is becoming more and more digital as we speak. Just to give you that as a Kobani example, like I think that I can see the path that if we make good video content informed by AI assets or AI scripting, AI narratives, automation helping us stitch those videos together, building out what we need, there's no reason that because linear TV becomes a digital purchasing opportunity that we can't do those functions. Now, if we were to get into some of the longer tail marketing, I'm sure you're experiencing it every day. Like every day, I see how many emails I get. I doubt they are written by people. You can kind of tell. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity in some of the traditional media as well. I'm not an expert in that side. It's up to everybody else to decide if I'm an expert in the digital side. I'd like to think so. Been in a long time, but on the traditional side, I see it's still about human engagement and content.
Sure. Makes sense. And we actually had one more question come in right at the buzzer here from Sarah. And the question says, what are the most common user resistance points when transitioning to an AI-powered workflow? And how do you recommend addressing them?
Yeah, it's definitely in the release of control. So there's risk aversion, there's apprehension, and there's a little bit of like, hey, what is my job tomorrow if I have this agent that does this for me? It's one of the reasons that that vision is all about hiring assistants that work for you. That really solidifies and strengthens what the new role looks like in the future. So there's definitely apprehension there. You also we've all had it, where we've made a mistake as people and we had very upset clients. We get these little scars on those wounds, and we decide we're never going to let that happen again. So releasing that control and letting an agent, run autonomously that could give us one of those problem spaces, it's a risky thing to accept. So I think the way we engage that is with that multi-step approach. Let the agent make recommendations and suggest. Let the agent give me information that I can then evaluate. I am managing that agent. And then from there, we can determine if we have the appetite for the risk of letting it run autonomously.
Great feedback, and appreciate all of those questions, some of which were very much on the fly. We hope that you enjoyed this presentation as much as I did. We have reached the end of our time. I want to say thank you to Heather. I want to say thank you to Eric for joining us, and thanks to you for attending Ad Age's custom webcast sponsored by Fluency. You can listen and view this presentation again on demand using the same link you used to register today. You will receive an email as soon as the archive is ready. On behalf of Fluency and our guests, Heather and Eric, thank you again so much for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.